greater gravity or twice as much gravity, more power in the earth, and the warmer temperatures because of the thicker atmosphere, because of the heavier and more dense gravity, made it not necessary for it to for it to rain, because the temperatures were just too hot for rain to even be possible. A lot of people talk about this ice sheet that was over the earth. The ice sheet, whether it was there or was not, I'm not really even sure, but the intense atmosphere due to the heavier gravity, okay, and why do I say heavier gravity? Because all the archaeology points to it. You know, things are just not going to get big like that. It's going to take heavier gravity. It's going to take heavier gravity to trap more gas, to block away more radiation, to cause things to grow much bigger, you know, without the radiation. So it's going to take slightly heavier gravity, and the slightly heavier gravity caused the atmosphere to be much thicker to reflect more of the sun's ultraviolet radiation. The water under the ground, you know, seeped up, and once it got to the surface, evaporated and, you know, was like a foggy morning dew that made it impossible to rain. So it just fogged on everything, and everything was growing out the ground, you know, much better. I really don't want to get into it right now because, you know, I'm gonna get into all of that science when I'm talking about the first world. Right now, I just want to just read this passage and, you know, get to the giddy up, okay? But in general, you know, in order for things to get much bigger or much stronger, then the oxygen would have to be much thicker, okay? The oxygen would have to be much thicker, which meant that there would have to be more oxygen on the earth, which meant that the atmosphere would have to be much thicker. And the only way to hold an atmosphere from the beginning, I'm not talking about if you was to raise up Earth's gravity now, that things will go back to the way it was. It's not going to happen like that. But in order for things to be at a died down state now, the Earth would have had to have been slightly stronger then, which points to a heavier and more dense gravity that held in more of the gases, and there was more oxygen on the Earth, and the radiation was not coming in, killing off everything slowly. Okay, and the temperatures of the Earth were drastically warmer. You know, it probably was about 150 degrees everywhere, or 100 degrees everywhere, but their standard of 100 degrees was probably at about 150 or even 200 degrees. So their boiling point was higher. You understand? And since their boiling point was higher, what was normal for them would be abnormal for us. Get into that when I deal with the first world. Regular people were giants, dinosaurs were giants, animals were giants. The buildings were fit for giants, and the technology was vast and superior. Of course, when melanin is supercharged at that level, I mean, it just is what it is. The first world was way more technologically advanced than this one. And I'm not just saying it fleetingly, it's true. There's more evidence to point to that there was a first world than there was even ancient Greece and Rome. Sunken pyramids all over the ocean floor, because there were parts of the earth that never became unflooded. It never submerged. Okay, it's, you know, you have pyramids that are still underwater. Most of the earth was land, and there was one ocean that was about the size of the earth. Was drastically different before the flood. To be perfectly honest, just way different before the flood. You know, no rain. People were bigger. Dinosaurs running around the place. The first world was way different. And angels walked freely among men, because everybody could live for 1,000 years. So angels walk freely among men. And this is where you get Genesis chapter 6 from, which I'm going to get to too. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that real soon, because that part I'm going to just explain to you. I'm not going to put the science aside and try to talk about everything that I know of. The truth about Christianity is not just a video about the book of Genesis, but it's a video about the first world, it's a video about the black woman, it's a video about the white man, definitely it's a video about you two-thirds, you Negroes. If you're going to die, you might as well know why. You might as well. Alright, here is the story that jumps all the way back to Genesis chapter 1 when it says that, I'm gonna read this again because this is important. This is the same story. This is not dealing with many different Adams, Uncle Adam and Grandpa Adam. It's only one people. This is the story in general. Genesis chapter 2 verse 7 is getting more specific. Genesis chapter 1 verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female he created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and every living thing that moves upon the earth. Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. Now these are the specifics of that story. And the Lord God formed man out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. All right. So this is the same story, just more specific. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden. The Garden of Eden cannot be located now. It really is Jerusalem, but it can't be located now because the continent's all broken up. And, just like I said before, there's parts of the original Pangea that's still underwater. And there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So what's the tree of life? The tree of life is just basically doing as you're told. And the tree of good and evil is, knowledge that could either hurt or help. Because in that Garden of Eden situation, what the Lord was really trying to do was that he was trying to skip over the next 7,000 years of mayhem and craziness and put us at the point that we are going to be when this world falls right from the very beginning, because the scriptures say the law will be written into our hearts and that we will never sin again. We're going to get into that. Hebrews 10 and 16. This is the covenant that I will make with them. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my laws into their hearts and in their minds, and will write them. And their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. Now where remission of these sins, there is no more offering for sin. Okay, Hebrews 8 and 10. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he saith a new covenant he hath made the first old. Now which decayeth and wax old is ready to vanish away. So, the law is going to be written in our hearts, and we're not going to be able to sin anymore. You understand what I'm saying? So our women are going to be down with allowing us to have more than one wife, because we can't have more than one wife on this side. I'm not going to read the part about Eden, how he planted a garden, because once again the continents are broken up. But you could speculate saying that the Euphrates and the Pison and the Tigris and the Nile were all rivers leading to the Garden of Eden. But the continents all separated, so you just, you know, there's no point even dealing with that, because you could easily make the speculation, but since it's irrelevant, because the world was shaped differently, there's just no point in pointing, okay, this was Eden. Obviously, it should be guessed that Jerusalem is Eden, because God has always been dealing with that land. Okay. Genesis 2:19. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. So Adam named all the animals. Okay. And Adam gave names to all the cattle, and to all the fowl of the air, and to all the beasts of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helpmate for him. So Adam didn't have a wife. The other nations are running around with women all over the place, but the Lord didn't want him to deal with those women. Okay? The Lord wanted him to deal with a pure woman. And God caused Adam to go into a deep sleep, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead of. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he woman, and brought her unto him, and brought her unto the man. So God took a piece of Adam and created a woman out of it, because only and no, Eve was not his cousin, and Eve was not some distant relative or some shit. Eve was created out of a piece of Adam's body. You need to read the scriptures for what it is. That's what happened. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. You understand? She is now the womb man, because she was taken out of man. Because Adam is a prophet. So Adam is basically, naming the animals and calling things what they need to be called. And he prophesies. So Adam is a god on this earth, man. So when his seed starts mixing with the other nations, yeah, freaks of nature are created in Genesis chapter 6, which I'm going to break down. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. See, he's given a proper ordinance as to what happens in life.